Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Podcast. My name's Josh Lander, and we're going to be doing things a little bit differently today on the LYB podcast. It's Tuesday, November the 7th, as I'm recording and getting this video out to you guys. We don't have any NBA games, but we do have a full Wednesday slate with plenty to choose from. Nate and I, my co-host on the NBA Coast to Coast podcast, have our video up on the lines.com's YouTube page. I'm always pushing you guys over there to make sure that you get all the picks that we are putting up, give you plenty of analysis and reasoning behind all those picks as well. So check out all 8 picks we have for the Wednesday slate over there. I'll run through with them for you guys as well in this video, just because why not? I got you here. Might as well show you the goods of what we're putting out as well in case you missed that video. But I am going to get into a couple other things. So let's run into what that is here. Looking at the schedule for today, we're going to start out with a parlay for the people. We're going to get a coast to coast best bets sort of slate up there for you guys so you can see the picks that Nate and I made. And we're also going to go into something a little bit different here, which is I want to show you how to handicap games and the way that I'm doing it, the way that Nate is doing it, and a few other guys that we work with and talk to daily to make sure that we're not missing anything, right? And getting the best odds, getting the most out of each NBA slate, essentially, to get all the picks that we like in with the most confidence. There's a couple ways that we do that. One of them is watch the games, a little spoiler there. And then a bunch of the other ways is use some tools that we have that are very helpful for us. Free ones are the ones that I'm going to go through. I'm not going to give you anything here where you need a subscription, although I do have that. I also have a bit of a model that is still a work in progress, but it's definitely something that a few guys that are much smarter than I am are helping me put together. Not going to give you any insight into that just yet, but just a spoiler for that as well, and a little, look beneath the curtain for a betting model. What I'm showing you is essentially just the manual form of the process of what a model will do. And the model makes everything much faster rather than needing like 29 different websites to get the pieces of information that you need, the ones that are key to use when making bets and spending money on this stuff. Those ones are all the things that can just be consolidated into one model. So you have it all in one nice spreadsheet, like I said, as opposed to going to a bunch of different places to find it. So I'll show you some of the manual process here on one of the bets that I did make with Nate and have already posted with Ant Edwards, which we'll talk about in just 1 second. Quick shameless reminder to go ahead and like and subscribe to this page. It's super helpful. It is the way that you are eligible to win that parlay for the people, where I go ahead and put $20 down on a bet that I will split with you guys. If it hits, it's usually at least 3 or 5 to 1 in that range in terms of the odds we'll get back. I got 3 picks to put together into the parlay for the people today. So like this video, subscribe to the page, and you are automatically eligible on YouTube. If you're following along on audio, just go ahead and follow the podcast. And if you would rate it, that's super helpful as well. And then you are also eligible for that parlay for the people. So let's get right into some of how we've done so far over on the Coast to Coast podcast. I just want to be super transparent with you guys, make sure you know how we're doing. On the season, 49-44, up 5 units or so, a little bit better than that, which is great through 2 weeks. Happy to be up nearly a unit a day. Had some fluctuations, some ups and downs, as we know, but overall, feeling really good about how we're trucking along. A quick insight into yesterday, which was Monday. Overall, went 4-6, lost 0.1 units because we're doing so much better on these NBA best bets somehow over the play of props, which is what Nate and I are truly known for, is how well we normally do on play of props. We're going to get hot. I'm not worried about it. We go on a heater. Usually in the December to January months is when we start to find a lot of value. We're 2 guys who really like to fish out who's not playing and how we can use that to our advantage, which oftentimes in those months is a lot of guys as they miss a lot of time in the NBA. So stick around. We're going to keep winning money either way. These best bets have been awesome, and we'll pick it up even more so on the play of props. That said, a quick look at how we are betting on Wednesday, Nate and myself, over on the Coast to Coast podcast. Like I said, not going to get into the ins and outs of how we made these picks and why. I will just say that if you want to get that, you can get it over there. And for now, here's the quick slate of picks. Teaser, Brooklyn +8 in their game, and then Charlotte and Washington over 236 in their game. So tease those down and tease Brooklyn up, and that's the bet Nate made. Toronto and Dallas, I'm taking over 222.5 in that one. The image on YouTube incorrectly says 22.5. I'm taking over 222.5 in this game. Ant Edwards, a little parlay here with him to get 20 plus and Minnesota to beat the New Orleans Pelicans. I like that one because of a lot of reasons, which once again, listen to the video, but watch that video or listen to that podcast. But I think Ant to get 20 is a easy bet, and them to win this game as 7-point favorites. I really think that's what's in the cards for Minnesota. Porzingis in a good matchup versus the 76ers. Nate likes him to get over 16.5 points. I like DeAndre Ayton to get a double-double in his game against the Kings. SGA at 27.5 points. He's a part of that parlay for the people. We'll talk about that in a sec. I like him to get 28 in this one. Ben Simmons, over 15.5 rebounds and assists. That's Nate's pick there for Wednesday. And finishing it off there, Nate also likes Lauri Markkanen to go ahead and get 24 points in his game, where there should be a good amount of the points in their game against the Pacers on Wednesday night. Okay, the parlay for the people. 3 picks. Ant Edwards, 20-plus points. DeAndre Ayton, 10-plus rebounds. SGA, 25-plus points. Reasoning for all those guys, very simple. Ant does this a lot. His usage is at 31%. He likes to score against the Pellies. Herb Jones, the best defender for the Pellies, is not playing. 20-plus points for Ant. DeAndre Ayton is a monster on the boards this year. I don't know that he's DeAndre Ayton or dominating, rather, in the points category. It doesn't even have double digits in a few games already this season, but always gets double digits in the rebound category, other than one game this season that he only got 9 in that one. So I still love him to get 10 in a game where the Kings are just a turnstile for centers to get boards. Demonis is just not it right now in terms of keeping guys off the glass on both sides of the court. So DeAndre Ayton to get the 10-plus boards there, and SGA 25-plus points for him based on the fact that he's playing against a team that's giving up. The Cavs are the most points per game to opposing point guards this season. He scored 35 at home against them last season. He scored 23 before he got hurt in a game last year where he was easily going to get over 30 as he and Donnie Mitchell were dueling. And I think we'll get more of that in this game that should be pretty fun with the Cavs and the Thunder. All right, let's get into the Ant Edwards bet. And I just want to throw some helpful tools at you guys. I'm going to share my screen in just a sec. But I wanted to show you a few of the tools that I'm using here that should be able to get you to a good place when you're looking at a slate. It's kind of like when you're writing and you know, you're writing an essay, you're writing a paper or whatever, and you have a blank piece of paper in front of you. The hardest part is, what are the first words that I even write? Everything sounds stupid. It's like, where do I look? This can be overwhelming, especially when there's 14 freaking games on the slate like there are on Wednesday. It can be a lot. So let's take a look at some of the tools I use, and then I'll go through a little bit of the process for how I made that Ant Edwards bet. NBA.com stats page. FanDuel Fantasy Pros. And I'm going to put this in the description of the video as well as the podcast if you're listening on audio, so it's easy to get these things. But yeah, all these tools will be linked in the description. But the NBA.com stats page is great. Don't sleep on it. You got to know how to use it. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt when you could put a model together. If you have friends, like I said, who can develop and do things that I don't know how to do in an Excel sheet, then you can definitely compile all the things that you would need from NBA.com stats and put them into one sheet. But without that, NBA.com is still have everything you need if you're willing to look for it real quick. FanDuel Fantasy Pros, that's a great place to look at the defensive matchup in terms of position versus a specific team. So you'll see, I'll go through that real quick with you in a sec. It's great for player props because you go ahead and make sure that you can see, let's say, you're playing against, like I said, the Kings with that bet with DeAndre Ayton. The Kings give up the most rebounds per game to opposing centers. I found that on FanDuel's Fantasy Pros website, specific link where you can go ahead and make sure that you see how other teams, the teams perform against specific positions. Statmuse.com. Don't sleep on it. Honestly, it's a website that is a little rinky dink, and now you need a subscription to keep going, though. When I say rinky dink, that's unfair. It's just new. And it was going through some growing pains over the last 2 or 3 years. But I mean, it's like an official partner of the NBA, I believe. And is definitely a very helpful website for just really quick and fast. Ask it a question. You can navigate through things very easily, which I'll show you here in just a minute as well. So put StatMuse there on a bookmark. Official NBA injury report. I'll show you what that looks like. But if you can't find it, just Google it. Google official NBA injury report, and that'll be the exact one that the teams are delivering to the NBA by the deadline each day for games that they need to do that. Prop finder tool on thelines.com. I talk about it all the time, but I'll show you where it is exactly here in just a second so you can make sure that you're shopping that. I mean it. I'm not just saying it because, you know, they asked me to at thelines.com. Like, this prop finder tool saves me money by making sure I can find the best odds that are out there, scraping the internet for that. Teamrankings.com. You're going to find great trends there. You're going to find definitely like team against the spread stuff, team totals and how they do against the totals that are projected for them in terms of individual games and otherwise. You can see some future stuff. You can see some individual player stuff. Really, really good site for comparing different things that I'll look at with you eventually here as well. And then on Twitter is a great place to make sure you're getting those injury reports because it's hard to keep up with it. And the NBA teams don't need to be honest. And honestly, they're trying to be dishonest. They're trying to trick each other. Are these NBA squads by not delivering these NBA injury reports until a time that suits them or whatever, right? And being coy with it. Questionable guys are questionable up until game time. Like it's all nonsense. So use these tools on Twitter that I'll show you, like Underdog's NBA page. You can even go to my page, JL at JL Boogie, land your bets on Twitter, and you'll find a list that I'll show you here as well, where that's got the NBA reporters for every single team in the NBA. So you can see what they're saying on a day-to-day in terms of this guy was X at shoot around, questionable or whatever. These people are the people who are on the ground talking to the coaches directly, and definitely a huge source of info for websites like Underdog and their Twitter page. So let's get started. Handicapping NBA games starting out, right? This is a quick 4 easy things to just do right away when you're looking at an NBA slate and you're trying to get into it. First of all, watch the games. This is a sport where watching the games helps. That's why I stick to basketball as much as I do. I'm a sicko who watches the games and will rewatch some things to kind of see what I'm looking for. But you can also get a feel for things that will just stick into your brain once you watch, right? I'll give you an example here and something that I'll talk about with this Ant Edwards, where by watching the game, I was able to already know, all right, Zion and Brandon Ingram look terrible together when they're on the floor right now. Ingram is a minus 29 in that game that they just lost to the Denver Nuggets. It was all bad because I watched that game and mostly the second half so I could watch Denver come back and give me a nice money line bet. I knew that they looked awful just by watching it, just seeing them on the court at the same time. It was awful. And then I get to use that knowledge as a starting point to dig deeper and see if my eyes are lying to me, if my eyes really saw what I thought they saw, and the stats will help define that for me. So it's a combination of analysis by looking at numbers, but also just by watching basketball, which why else are you betting on these games if you don't like it? I mean, maybe you're just a degenerate who's looking for value, or you're a professional. That's fine. But if you're here to do it in a slightly different manner, this is going to be some helpful stuff to help things stand out for you. Watch the games. So what stands out on the slate? When you look at the slate, what stands out? Hopefully, like I said, something from what you've seen and watched in the games is the first thing that sticks out to you. So then you chase it and you go looking for it. And now you try to find things that either prove or disprove the thinking that you have behind, oh, well, this guy's on the slate. You look at this guy's prop and it looks low. The total in this game looks really low. For instance, the Kings played the Rockets the other night and the total was at like 218.5. And the first thought is, what? These two teams play so fast and the Rockets don't play defense, because you're remembering last season. That's not the case right now. De'Aaron Fox is out for the Kings, right? And for the Rockets, they've turned into a defensive team with Ime Udoka. So now we need to look at the slate and go, oh, that stands out. Is that an easy over? The 218.5 for this game, is that easy? No, it's not easy. It's incorrect and it's trappy. So you've got to look at why it's 218.5. Once it stands out to you as something that's fishy, look into it. Maybe you found a good line. Most likely it's fishy for a reason, and you find out why. The books are not your friends. Always remember that. Let's say you're going prop hunting. This is number 3 here. Let's say you're looking for different positions and things like that. Like I said, go to that the FanDuel Fantasy Pros. It's really a daily fantasy tool to see which teams do well and not well defending certain positions. When you're building daily fantasy lineups, it's very helpful to know that. It's also very helpful when you're going ahead and putting bets on player props. Very similar concept. And then you look at why, though, right? Like it's a good starting point is my main point here. You go to the Fantasy Pros website there from FanDuel, and you look at who stands out, who's the worst against defending centers, limiting centers rebounds, limiting centers assists. You look at all this stuff, and if something stands out to you there, then you use that to dig further. Why did that guy play well against that guy? Is this team playing well against a specific position so far because they played crappy centers and that's why they're limiting centers? Or what is it, right? So you look at all that, you attack your logic. That's number 4. After you get all this stuff in and you start to feel good about maybe a pick that you have, attack that logic. Think about what would make this bet fail and why it might not work out for you. All right, let's go ahead and have me share this screen for you guys so I can show you exactly what I want to by showing you the tools that I'll be using, the websites that I use, like I said, and all of that. All right. For those of you who are still just doing this on audio, I'll go ahead and be very clear about everything I'm talking about here. All right. Okay. So we kick things off here talking about the Ant Edwards play, right? And we've got Ant at 20 plus points, like I said. And he's going to combine that with the money line, right? So let's talk about how I got with Ant Edwards, 20 plus points, Minnesota money line, plus 150 on FanDuel. First thing I saw was the injury report. All right. I saw that Herb Jones was hurt. And that really led me to really go dive more deeply into this game. So how I got there was looking at the injury report on the NBA. You can see here, this is the official injury report that the NBA provides for everybody based on what the teams give them. So let's look at this injury report, and you can see, like I said, this is the official injury report that comes out from the teams, and the league puts it out for us right here in one spot. This can always change up to the game time. This is just the early one the day before, and now as we move forward into Wednesday, these things will update. So places that you might want to look for injury report stuff, and where I found the Herb Jones stuff, this Underdog page on Twitter is super helpful. I have my alerts on. That might be annoying for you guys if you don't care that much, but this is definitely the area where you can see, if you're following along on YouTube, all of the players and their specific statuses are just updated here without question, man. Just one sentence tweets and it's all there. So definitely want to check the Underdog fantasy page out. I will just shamelessly show you my Twitter handle as well and show you that I have a list up with that I have called NBA Beat Reporters, a number of reporters in there on the timeline. So all their stuff is in one spot as well. If you're ever looking for it, check out the list on Twitter. All right. So once I found out the Herb Jones news, I was like, I know Herb Jones is really good at defense. I know they're going to miss him. I also know they have a ton of other injuries going on. And that's when I also saw by going over here to their injury report and on ESPN.com, like, God bless them. It actually is pretty helpful. But the injury report here for the Pelicans, I was also like, damn, like, this is bad. There's a number of dudes out now, including Jose Alvarado, Herb Jones, Najee Marshall, CJ McCollum, who had a lung collapse. Hope that gets better soon. And then Trey Murphy III also out. All these guys, that's huge for them. You've got the guy who sets everything up for CJ. You've got their best wing defender in Herb Jones. They're probably the second best wing defender in 3-and-D guy in Trey Murphy. Najee Marshall, very versatile defender as well. And then for sure their best on-ball point guard defender in Jose Alvarado. That's tough, man. It's tough to win without ball control on offense and really your best players on defense out there for you as well. And so I saw that they're playing Minnesota, and it's like, whoa, well, Minnesota I know has been hot because I've been watching some of that together. Combine that with Zion and Brandon Ingram just looking like complete booty together. Well, I know that because I've been watching the game, right? So with Brandon Ingram and Zion looking so bad together, I go over to the NBA stats page and I go, let me see just how bad they are together. And this is where I go over to their page specifically from the stats page, the New Orleans Pelicans. And I check out the lineups here on NBA.com stat page for the Pellies. You go to their specific page and you go to their lineups. You can see 2-man lineups. You can see 3-man lineups. I like to see the advanced stats rather than just traditional, so I can kind of just get an understanding of the net rating. The advanced stats were created for a reason, so you can sort of get like really quick synopses that are a little bit more accurate than just, well, this team played, scores a lot of points. Well, they play at a faster pace, so it takes into consideration how fast teams play, stuff like that. 2-player lineups, right? And I gotta like basically command F it and look for some Zion and Brandon Ingram together stuff here. I actually have to go by the last name. So this is basically how I do it. And what I came up with once I found it, I'm not going to make you guys search it with me, kind of like a cooking show. I'll just get to the end product here. I happen to know that they are a minus, their net rating together on the floor is basically a minus 15. That's terrible. You want to be in the positive. And I can tell you right now, it's going to be somewhat indicative of a plus minus in general in terms of their net rating. But like I said, a little bit more accurate, taking into considerations other factors outside of traditional stats. So NBA.com is a great place to be able to get what I'm looking for here when I'm starting down a hunch and I'm going, okay, Zion, Ingram together. Let's see how they play together. That's not good. You've got Zion and Brandon Ingram playing really poorly together, while at the same time, you've got a ton of their defenders out. You've got their best playmaker out in CJ, their second one out in Jose Alvarado. All that stuff just screams terrible, right? So now where I'm at is taking a step back. It's like, I know that these dudes are booty together. I know that they've got too many guys out. I know now that in my head, I know that they've been really good. I've seen them beat some good teams like the Celtics on Monday night. So I know they're playing well. I see Ant going off 38 points against the C's as well. So I know there's something there. So let me start to look at, all right, how are they doing at home, right? How are they playing in general this season? How's Ant doing in a situation where Herb Jones, the other team's best defender, is out? So I can easily just go back to my advanced page on the NBA stats.com page. And I'm going to go to advanced because I think it's a good starting point. Net rating, really solid indicator once again for a team and for a player. 8.6 net rating. That's good for 4th in the league right now, right? I'm feeling pretty good about how good they're playing. If I go ahead and click into the Minnesota Timberwolves NBA stats page, I'm going to look at their advanced metrics, and you can easily see how they're playing at home versus how they're playing on the road. Actually, I need to stay on traditional here. And you can easily see that they're 4-0 at home, 0-2 on the road. Okay, so they're playing super well at home. Who did they play at home, right? You see kind of some of the thinking I'm using. Why are they good? Attacking my logic. Okay, if they're good at home, 4-0, that doesn't tell me much unless I know who they played. So I go to their advanced box score, and I can see, if I look at their home games here, Boston, Utah, Denver, Miami. I would say those are all 4 good teams. That makes this feel pretty real. So I don't think there's any logic that you can use to deflate this pick for Minnesota by saying, well, they've only beaten bad teams at home. Okay, we've go ahead and nuke that understanding, right? So we can keep moving on and keep, like I said, questioning things. I want to know, how has Ant done? This is where I can show you guys Stat Muse real quick. I can easily just go in and easily find Ant Edwards. And there's a couple ways to do things, obviously. But if I use Stat Muse, I can just move about so fast. But I just want to find his game log, Ant Edwards' game log this season. Looking through it here, how many times has he gotten 25 points? All but 2. That's a pretty good percentage. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, he's gotten 4 games. He's gotten at least 25 points, which is where his prop is at for tonight. Well, look, I just really want to get a win here, and I get really nice odds in a game where I really like the Pellies to lose to the Timberwolves, and I really like Ant to be a big reason on offense with a lack of Herb Jones, etc., all the stuff I went into. So I'm really starting to feel good about this pick, and I've got a couple other things I want to look at. Does Ant have a high usage rate? Absolutely, 31.3%. Once again, I can even just use the Stat Muse here and go Ant Edwards usage rate this season into the stat bar, the search bar, basically 32%. It's a very high usage rate. Usage rate tells me that that's basically how many shots he's taking. What percentage of his team's shots is he taking when he's on the floor? And his usage rate when he's on the floor is 32%. That's very good, right? That means he's taking a third of the shots that his team gets up. That means he's taking 20 shots right now per game. As you can see, the field goal attempts on there as well. So just a lot to like with Stat Muse, because I can easily move around. I can start to look at Ant Edwards' personal page. I can go back and just toggle. I can see, go to Minnesota's team page, stuff like that. It's just easy to move around on Stat Muse. You do need a subscription. I will say that it's worth the $20 a month that I'm spending here to just be able to easily navigate stuff, because I can also just get like matchup stuff, right? Like, let's say I want to know how Ant Edwards did against the Pellies, which I do, by the way. That was something I wanted to know. So Ant Edwards game log versus Pelicans last, let's say, 5 games. And I know it's an arbitrary number, but you can go back as far as you want. In his last 5, he's gotten 25 against his team in all but 1, right? And that was on the road. Actually, he's played them the last 4 times he's played them in the regular season, has been on the road here against the Pels and still doing really well. But like I said, at home should have even more success. So the nice thing is, like I said, I can just see how he did. But let's say I was like, well, maybe Zion Williamson wasn't in those games. And so, like, I want to know, did Zion play when Ant Edwards was going up against the Pellies? I can make sure if that's a big deal to me, which, by the way, it's not. That's an arbitrary hypothetical situation. I don't care if Zion was playing when Ant went off. He's not going to guard him. He's not exactly like scaring people down low, even though he can jump real high. He's not much of a defender. So it's not like I would care if Ant and Zion are playing against each other. So let's actually be more specific to the bet. What am I talking about? Let's use Herb Jones. So Ant Edwards game log versus Herb Jones. And now what that is going to show is every time that Herb Jones suited up and Ant Edwards suited up, and what the stats were for Ant when they played each other. So actually, come to find out, Herb Jones did play in most of those games over the last 5, and Edwards still went over. But we get the fact that he didn't play in there to help us and say that, like, great, Herb isn't in there. That's their best defender. Even if Herb was in there, Ant still does well against his Pelly's team. Nothing to worry about there. So a lot of different ways to look at it and make sure that we like what we got with Ant. We like what we get with the Timberwolves beating the Pellies in this game with just the money line. Look, I didn't really love the -7 points. I was thinking about just taking the Timberwolves because of all the players missing for the Pellies. And I started to go, all right, but the Pellies kind of cover pretty well at times when they play full strength or even close to full strength against this Timberwolves team. 7 points is starting to get up there as a lot. So that's why, even though the Timberwolves had a pretty good record against the Pellies last year, I still don't love the idea of them needing to cover 7 points with some guys out there with plenty of talent still on the roster for a pretty deep Pellies team. So I got it down to the money line plus Ant to get a really reasonable points prop for himself. And that's how we get to the pick. There's a couple other things in here that I'll go through in the videos to come, but I just wanted to make sure that I was able to do a little bit of a deep dive here with you guys for now and see if you were interested in some of this stuff. So definitely hit me up on Twitter. I'm down to talk about this stuff with you guys all the time. I'll respond to any questions you have about a slate. If you want to hash it out, I'll give you my thinking on it. If it's a bet I made, I'll definitely tell you about it on Twitter as well. So check all that stuff out and follow along. Get all the picks, like I said, on the NBA Coast to Coast podcast on thelines.com's YouTube page, and then continue to follow along there as well so that you can get all these picks, and I'll be coming back to you. We'll move forward. I'm still going to be looking at leans for you guys, early picks when, the Coast to Coast video is not able to come out 24 hours in advance. Then I'll still be looking at early leans and bets with you guys. I'll also be throwing in, let's call them some weekend videos where we do some tutorials and we dive into more specific stats like rebound props. What's a good way to look at rebound props? There's a couple of specific stats and places to look for not only showing how many rebounds guys are getting and the percentage of rebounds that they're getting, but how many chances did they have? Like, there's advanced stats now that show you a guy's opportunity to get a rebound based on where he was in the area, because they're putting chips all over the court, and they're definitely able to track a lot of player stats now, which is super helpful to seeing how you want to bet props. Knowing is if a guy was in the paint when a shot went up, which would be considered a rebound chance. And now you can see how many rebound chances he has to see if he's over or underperforming. Compare that to the line that you get. Really interesting stuff. So I'm going to get into more of that. Hopefully you're continuing to follow along. Subscribe to the page so you don't miss out on those. I'll be way more consistent moving forward with this NBA stuff, and even get a few of the NFL videos out there for you NFL heads, because I have plenty of really solid NFL people that I'm bringing on the show that are smarter than all of us when it comes to betting NFL stuff, and we'll keep bringing them along as well. So continue to check this stuff out with me, guys. I really appreciate everybody who continues to grow the audience with me. Having a super great time with you. So until we see you next, happy betting.